Okay, let's get started. So, hello everybody and welcome to this KFTV talk in association with Palmer Pictures. I am Chris Evans, the locations editor for KFTV. Today we have gathered some leading experts to discuss all that Spain has to offer as a filming location and the logistics of shooting there. We will include details about how productions are starting up again and the incredible recent rise in the tax incentive to potentially 30% for Spain and 50% for the Canary Islands. Before we start, a few bits of housekeeping. I will moderate a 30-minute discussion with our panelists before we open it up to questions from you, our live audience. If you do have a question, please use the Q&A button in Zoom. My colleague Nia Daniels is helping to moderate today's panel, and we'll try to get to as many questions as we can. So let me first introduce you to my speakers. So we have Mike Day, CEO of Palmer Pictures, one of the world's leading production and service companies based at its studio complex in Mallorca and in Barcelona. Mike has worked his way through pretty much every position in the industry, from runner to assistant director. His recent list of credits with Palmer Pictures include the hugely popular Netflix series The Crown and White Lines. We have Tate Aries, experienced location manager. Tate started as a stunts guy before developing his passion for photography by becoming a location manager, setting up a film location company which is based in Malaga. His impressive list of credits include Game of Thrones, The Crown, and Terminator Dark Fate. We also have Rachel Cole, who's a line producer based in London. Rachel began her career working in-house at NBC Universal before moving into HGTV drama, working in production on Stan Lee's Lucky Man, Silent Witness, and Bulletproof. She is currently line producer on Amazon Prime's espionage series Hannah, the most recent series of which had extensive shooting in Barcelona and surrounding areas. And finally, we have Christophe Dupont, who's the executive director of Paraiso Productions. Christophe was born in France, but has lived in Spain for 30 years, working in production since 2000, when he helped set up Lanzarote-based Paraiso Productions, a photo and film production services company covering the whole of the Canary Islands and Spain. So let's kick off with some questions. First of all, let's discuss the current situation in Spain with coronavirus and where in the phased approach the country is now. Mike, would you perhaps kick us off on this particular topic?
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Chris, and thanks for the invite. Hello, everybody. Yeah, so the state of alarm in Spain, which came into force in mid-March and gradually went through a four-phase kind of de-escalation, and we arrived at the end of that earlier this week, which is fantastic. So we're now in what they call the new normal. Flights are resuming. So Schengen flights can come in and kind of go back via air bridges to various European countries. We're still waiting with interest to see what happens with the States. But basically, we're able to go about our business now. You know, obviously following the health and safety protocols and still kind of maintaining the social distancing. But yeah, we're back in business, which is great. We've started to see our first bookings for advertising work. And with our film and TV projects, unfortunately, we had a few that were mid-shoot in March. The Crown being one of them. We're about to shoot up in Baqueira in the Pyrenees. We had to cancel. The Mallorca Files was 6 episodes through a 10 filming kind of season. We had to stop there, and then we had a number of other projects which were in advanced discussions, which were going to come through during the summer. Obviously, all kind of paused. A number of those are kind of circling back again now. We've got. Yeah,
are you looking to shoot them back in Spain again, or?
That's right. Yeah, I mean, obviously, you know, some of them inevitably will look at other options. I guess the producers are trying to understand how to go about filming their segments. Most of the work that we do tends to be a mix of Spain, so people filming here, and another country. So people might film in Hungary or the UK or the US, and then segments in Spain. Some of the work we do is entirely Spanish. So we shot a show for Netflix recently called on the left bank called White Lines with Vancouver Media. It was 6 months filming entirely in Spain. But a lot of the work that we conduct tends to be, you know 1 week, 2 weeks, a month, and then filming in other countries. So obviously, it's, you know, until the other countries can resume their activities, we're slightly in a holding pattern. We suspect that probably our first film and TV workflows will come through in the fall of this year. You know, so we're looking at stuff perhaps for September, October and beyond. And then we still have a kind of a busy pipeline of shows that want to come and shoot with us in 2021. And we're hoping that that's, you know, far enough into the distance for everything to kind of right itself by then.
So at this stage, it's local productions mostly, and international productions will start up again in the coming months.
That's right. Yeah, we're at kind of budgeting stage. We're about to start scouting for another Netflix show, hopefully with Tate there, to the screen to my right here, later this month, down in southern Spain. But yeah, we're at kind of, let's say, the investigation stage now. No firm kind of, we haven't moved firmly into any pre-production on anything as yet.
Okay. And Christoph, the situation in the Canary Islands at the moment?
I think it's the same like Mike. They just start we are starting to talk with the clients and open the line in all the Canary Islands. And the clients can come next week. The plane arrives the 1st of July. They will open all the line. So we still wait, and we will see what's happened in the months for the summertime. But I think it's for this September and until for the autumn, we have the people are asking and telling and asking us for coming in for this September for the winter time. So we will see what's happened. And now next week, if the flight company opens the line, and we try to do works. We have also opened a streaming line. Streaming line in case of they can't come, to try to continue to do production without the clients with us.
Yeah, that's proving quite popular and has done, hasn't it, for the last couple of months? Remote film production seems to be one of the ways to go. And is that the case in the Canary Islands at the moment then? There are productions happening, but remotely.
But I think that all my colleagues in the Canary Islands are like us. Are still waiting, and we don't have. We are preparing and seeing what's happened for the few weeks. Because and I don't know if the clients would come with and try to work with the streaming, this kind of work. We will see. For the moment,
so sorry, go on, Christoph.
No, tell us.
I was just going to ask, so what are the specific travel restrictions then at this stage? I mean, is there quarantining required when you get into the country?
No, it's
finished.
Where
you're coming from? I mean this for Spain and Canary Islands. I'll start with you, Christoph, and then maybe Mike, if you come in.
No, we don't have quarantine since a week now. It's finished. But if if we have others, if the coronavirus still come and have high people contaminate, sure, perhaps the government will close again the country, and we will be in quarantine.
And
for
Mike,
the moment, it's open. Huh?
Right. Okay. Good to know. And Mike, for Spain?
Yeah, similarly with Spain, there's no quarantine required from the Schengen area at the moment. Countries with let's say higher rates of epidemia, such as the States, unfortunately at the moment, there's still discussions between Spain and the United States as to the air bridge and what happens with that. But at the moment, my understanding, if you could come from the US, you would have to go back in quarantine. But if a German production team comes to Spain today, no need for quarantine, and no need for quarantine back in Germany. Similarly with France and Italy and lots of other countries.
So what stage are you at with projects? I mean, I know you touched on it briefly there, Mike. I mean, Tate, for example, have you got some projects lined up? Are you working on local projects at the moment? Like The Warrior Nun, for example, I know was filming in Spain. Have you got another season of that lined up?
Actually, I'm starting to research and to scout for projects that they will be shot probably in October, but they are international projects because in the local market is working already, but I'm not involved in local right now in any local projects. So I aim to shoot in October.
So what preparation work are you doing at this stage then for the projects that are forthcoming?
I'm doing the scout and starting to have all the negotiation with the authorities. That's what I can do now, and it's difficult because not all the authorities can receive you personally. Just now they're starting to let me go and start talking to them and all the stuff.
And are you having a lot of conversations though with international producers looking to film in Spain and sort of keen to get cracking? And what do you tell them?
When they ask if they can come, of course they can come because this will be running as I said, September, October, and I think this will be okay. The shooting here, yes.
Okay. So projects are potentially happening, but it's still early stages. We're looking at the next few months. So preparation stage at this point, and then shooting hopefully from, as you said, from September time.
September, okay. October, mid-October, we want to shoot. And there are a couple of big international projects that will be shot in October.
Can you say what those are, or is it too early to say?
Oh, no, I cannot say anything. that's the confidentiality as always. I cannot say, but they will be two big ones.
Okay. And are there, I'm assuming, for those that are filming at this stage, are there health and safety protocols and requirements in place already, Mike?
Yeah, very much so. You know, there are obviously the national protocols which we have to adhere to, and you know, obviously, you know, as a company, Palmer Pictures, we developed our own, which is relevant to our own workplace and our own approaches. So we'd like to go kind of maybe slightly deeper. But yes, we have to abide by those, and safety still is our principal concern.
Fantastic. And sort of broadening out in terms of Spain as a filming location, I know, and the Canary Islands obviously as well, they've both proven incredibly popular of late. I know, for example, the Canary Islands, you've had the likes of The Witcher, The Eternals, and Wonder Woman 1984. What Christophe, makes the islands so attractive?
I think the island make attractive because we have 1,000 of location and different location. We have 8 islands, and each island have a lot of locations and different locations, and also the light and the summer, the sunny days. We have very particularly weather in the islands, so we can work all the year. And also the islands are very attractive with the incentive.
Yeah, can you tell me a bit about that? Because obviously that's just been raised to 50%, which is the largest in the world. So that must be a huge, huge attractive.
The minimum budget is they start you can ask for the incentive starting 1 million of your budget, and we have 50% for the first million and 45% for the rest of the production, and it's quite a lot. And the people come in the island because it's easy to work. We have a lot of we have all the materials to shoot. We have a lot of also the crews are very good and international, and they know everything for the infrastructure, also the safety place, and also for the food. They come also for that.
Fantastic. I was going to ask, with regards to the incentive, obviously Spain raised theirs to 30% and Canary Islands to 50%. This was done quite recently, I mean, during the coronavirus. So an interesting sort of timing. I imagine obviously it's been discussed for some time, but was the idea for it to help boost the production industry in the wake of the pandemic?
Yes.
Has there been a lot of interest from producers already? And can you give an idea of the size of some of the projects?
I don't know. Mike, perhaps know more than.
Yeah, of course. You know, it was definitely a game changer for us. The rebate was raised on the 5th of May, so just very recently. And Christophe commented about the Canary for the Spanish Peninsula and the Balearic Islands, so excluding kind of Navarra and País Vasco. The incentive has gone up to 30% for the first million and 25% thereafter, and significantly the cap was raised from 3 million to 10 million. And so I think one of the drivers will be, you know, as I commented earlier, we often, you know, Spain's incredibly versatile. And Tate can talk a little bit about that. But, you know, as a company, probably 80% of the time, we're asked to double for other countries.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about that, yeah.
Yeah, can you find me Mexico City? Can you find me Afghanistan or Greece or the French Riviera or the Caribbean, et cetera, et cetera. And Spain has a tremendous versatility with that. And you'd often have shoots that, as I mentioned, we're shooting in the UK or the US or wherever, and we'll come to Spain for a kind of cluster of locations. So similar to the stuff we shot on The Crown, for example. On Hannah, we were kind of happy to be shooting Barcelona as Barcelona, which is quite a rarity for us. And again, White Lines was kind of Spain within Spain, but doubling for different locations within Spain. But I think that the driving up of the incentive to a much higher cap and a much more competitive level will enable international producers to come and spend a much greater amount of time in country, which will be tremendous, and also particularly with the Canaries as well, up to 50% for the first million, which is a world-beating number. So I think that will really drive. So in terms of kind of order book stuff, obviously when that came out, I was communicating to a number of kind of international producing clients and re-highlighting the raise, and it was met with very well received, really.
And Tate, can you come in there? Because I know obviously this incentive is very important, but as Mike touched on there, I mean, Spain itself is an incredibly attractive place and has doubled for several locations. I know, for example, you worked on The Crown with Mike, which doubled Sevilla, for example, for the Beverly Hills. I think they shot in the Beverly Hills Hotel. That was it. They shot in Sevilla, doubling it for the Beverly Hills Hotel, and Athens as well. So it's obviously a popular place that can double easily for other locations.
Yeah, that's the big challenge. The first time that The Crown came to Spain, Palma Pictures called me it was incredible how many countries they wanted to find in the south of Spain. So it was a big challenge to try to find all these locations. At the end, we did it, and it was great. And we were dabbling for Bahamas, California, Greece. We've been dabbling in many countries. And in Terminator, for example, we were dabbling for Mexico. Yes, we have the desert, we have mountains, we have everything in Spain. We have many locations, and the weather, of course, is very nice. And now with the tax incentives, I think this will be great for our business, for our industry, of course.
And is Spain generally quite cost-effective to film? In there, I mean, compared to other countries.
Cost-effective? Sorry.
Is it cost-effective to film in Spain compared to, say, I don't know, Eastern Europe or other European countries like Italy or France? Is it generally, quite cheap, or is it quite expensive to get crew and infrastructure set up in Spain?
Spain is not the cheapest, but I think it's one of the best places cost-effective to shoot, because the people in the crew is very professional. They are very professional. The salaries are normal. They are not so high. I mean, Hungary, for example, is cheaper, but Spain is more clear. You know what I mean? And then I think it's very attractive to come here to shoot. And it's not cheap. It's not expensive. Sorry.
It's true. They have a very competitive price in the Canary Island and in Spain for the crew, for the material, and I think this is attractive also for the clients. One point, not only the weather and the locations, the competitive price. It's one of the points very important, and that's it. I think Spain is attractive in this world.
Is the lack of studios, though, a potential problem? I know in the past, obviously, there was Ciudad de la Luz, but that had its various problems. Is that something that needs to be sort of rectified? Do you think, are there plans to build studios? Mike?
No, I'm not aware of any specific plans. I mean, Netflix has opened a hub in Madrid, some studios, and really driving production via Madrid and via Spain generally, which is tremendous. I think with the increase in the tax incentives, I think perhaps developers and producers will kind of, let's say, unpack that discussion once again and probably look to start thinking about building enhanced studio infrastructure, because then really, with Spain, you could kind of host the whole shoot rather than the segments of it. But to Tate and Christoph's point, I think Spain is competitive. You can always find a cheaper option. Certainly if you go to Eastern Europe, Romania is very competitive. Hungary, etc., etc. But I think Spain has tremendous value, and also a tremendous culture of cinema that stretches back many decades. And the crew, the English speaking, the bilingual crew that you can find here, and the depth of the crew and the expertise of the crew, and also the country kind of abounds with tourism infrastructure. You know, tourism is a huge industry in Spain, and the hotels and the restaurants and lots of regional and international airports. It's very easy to get to. It's very easy to kind of travel within, and generally people, you know, people like coming here. You know, culturally, yeah. It's a wonderful place culturally, and the Spanish people are wonderful people. And Christoph said that, you know, as he said, the food's pretty good too.
And you touched there on the quality of the local crew. Rachel, can you tell me a bit about your experience working on Hannah? I know you shot around Barcelona. I imagine you had quite a few local crew involved in that. Was it a straightforward process? Did you find there was a plentiful supply, and did you use local fixers? And had you worked in Spain before?
So I hadn't worked in Spain before. This was my first experience, and we had a wonderful time. The crew was exceptionally organised and kind of allowed us to facilitate any type of filming that we wanted. There was no kind of crew that was out of bounds or any equipment that we couldn't source to reach our creative goal. And it was really wonderful how we was asking quite a lot, because we were shooting in the centre of Barcelona, and we was asking for quite varied locations within there, from like historical heritage all the way to like modernist, you know, hotels or buildings. And we essentially was able to achieve everything within our timeline and within our budget. So I can't really say better than that.
So in terms of getting permission to shoot in these various places, it was absolutely fine. It was quite straightforward, despite, as you said, being in central Barcelona.
I think maybe the troublesome part was not led with me. I think the land producer in Spain was incredible, and he dealt with lots of the sourcing the permits, and the location manager as well just worked tirelessly to allow us to film where we needed to, essentially.
So your overall shooting experience there was very good and quite straightforward.
Honestly, it was one of my best experiences shooting internationally. It was really wonderful. Yeah.
And had they considered other locations? I mean, was Barcelona the first choice for that?
It was a creative choice. So we was quite nervous about going there in the first place, just in case it wasn't possible to shoot in all the locations that we wanted to. That was written in the creative, but essentially there was nothing out of bounds for us when we got there. So that was really good.
And Tate, I was going to ask you, how have your experiences changed working in Spain over the years? I mean, what is different now, would you say, than say 20, 30 years ago? And how do your initial conversations go with, say, the studios? Are their demands very different? I imagine they must be at the moment.
I mean, the job is mainly the same, but now I'm feeling that many international, they are interested to come here. That's what I'm feeling. I feel more and more people to try to come here. And we did shoot in the south of Spain, The Warrior Nun, which is going to be out now in the 2nd of July. And for the first time, I think we did all this. It was only the showrunner, director, some HODs, only coming from UK and USA, and all the crew was Spanish. And that's something we have done, and it worked. It worked, and it was very good to do it. And I think they were happy because they want to come back, and they were happy with all the how it worked. And it was all the Spanish crew, only DOP, director, and the 4 directors they came, because it was a 10 episodes TV show.
So that's quite a change, isn't it? I mean, to have the majority of crew local on a big production, that's quite something, isn't it?
It's something. Yeah, it's something very interesting that it was an experiment. It worked, and now they were going to go do the same in Madrid. When the crisis came, it was going to be another one, and they are probably coming back. If Netflix wants, they want to do the second season.
Fantastic. Okay, I have to ask, while I've got you here, how is it working with HBO for Game of Thrones? Because obviously I know that filmed extensively in Spain. What was that experience like, and how is it different to, say, working with Paramount on Terminator Dark Fate, which filmed in Murcia and I think doubled for Mexico?
Yes. How is the experience? You ask, how was the experience with HBO?
Yes.
Fantastic.
For Game of Thrones.
They were very professional, and they were a crew that they were working for years. So they came, and it was like a family. I mean, it was a great experience. And the producer, Bernie Caulfield, she's great. Duncan Magos, line producer, he was great. He was an ex-location manager. And we did a family, and I have good connection with them still. We were very good people. and we did a very good job, and it was very nice. They came 4 years here. It was very good. I mean, the best until now.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
And I was going to ask this a question for all of you, really, because I know you've all worked across Spain in various different regions, and obviously the fact that there are so many regions in Spain is quite an interesting point in itself. Have your experiences been very different depending on where you've shot in Spain? Have there been any barriers potentially, maybe language or issues with getting permissions, or sort of political issues as well? Have you generally found the experience to be the same wherever you've shot, or has it differed, as I say, depending on the region? Perhaps if we start with Tate again.
Depending on the region, yes. It's not the region. It depending what you are asking for. For example, Barcelona is difficult to shoot in the city, but they did it in Hana, and they did it very well. So you need to know how to approach to the authorities. You need to collaborate all the time with them. And if you have a word, if you say something, you have to do it. You have to reinstate everything. Be serious. And they help. The authorities in Spain, they help a lot. Sometimes you cannot do anything, but most of the things, if you do it properly and if you are honest and you explain everything with time, you can do it. I've done so much difficult things, and I can come back to any of the places, any of them, and I've been shooting in very, very difficult locations, very difficult ones.
Can you tell me some of those locations, like the experience you had, the more difficult ones?
I mean, last year, 2 years ago with Terminator, to find that highway, that was incredible, because we were having a highway near Madrid, and at the end, I mean, I think 2 months, one month before shooting, they said no, because it was a problem with the government. No problem that at the end of the day they said no, and the movie was going to be to Hungary, to another place. And I had to find another highway, and we found that in Murcia, because it was leading to an airport that was not yet functioning. So it was very, very difficult. And to shoot in big monuments like the Alcázar, Seville, Alcázar, or to shoot in the Cathedral of Girona, all these kind of places, you need time and you need to approach properly to the authorities, and that's the way to do it.
And Mike, do you want to sort of extend from that in terms of your experience of shooting in different regions of Spain?
Yeah, and I think Spain is overall an extremely film-friendly country. I think it's kind of proven, the support even during the kind of let's say the economic challenges that the country faces amongst every other, to actually boost the incentive right now is kind of a testament to that. And actually, Spain has, I believe, after the UK, in European terms, the second highest amount of, let's say, film commission representation, all under the banner of Spain Film Commission, but lots of regions have their own, let's say, film offices. In fact, most of them do. And to Tate's point, it's just about, approaching things in a professional way, in a timely manner, and things tend to open up, very, very, very film friendly.
Fantastic. And Christoph? The Canary Islands, across Spain, I mean, has it been quite straightforward for you in terms of filming across the regions and the islands as well?
Normally, but in Canary Island, the government and the helpers, and we have the permits for 3 months, but they trust on us, and we have to always to take care of the environment, because we have many national parks in the islands, and we know how to use it. And always when the client have a special request, we try to, like Tate, we try to find a way and to open the space. But if the clients and the production, we take times to prepare the permits and the locations, we can shoot everywhere, and we have they are mostly open. I've shot in Barcelona also, and it was not so, it was easy to do it, and in the middle of the street, and like in the Canary Island. In the Canary Island, the government give us for 3 months the permit. They are quite open, and they want they trust on us, and we try to always to take care of the locations and the environment to continue and to sell the location.
I was going to ask you, actually, there's some questions coming through from the audience, so I think I'll address a few of these. In fact, one of them is quite pertinent to what you were just talking about. So, filming in the Canary Islands, there's talk of 2 film studios under construction on the island of Gran Canaria. Can you talk a bit about that and what the latest is on that?
I don't know. I don't know about the studios in the Canary Island. Most of the time, the people, when the client, when you want to film in the Canary Island, they come for the locations and to use the exterior locations. And it's this is the way why they come to here, to use the volcanoes, the Black Beach, the White Beach. We have so many locations, and I think it's not the place to do studios. It's better to stay in Madrid or Barcelona. If the people come for filming, all the films was do in the Canary Island. It was for use the locations, because we have so many locations and very good. So I never heard about studios in the Canary Island, but they have big studios in Gran Canaria and Tenerife. But most of the time, the people come for use the exterior
locations.
Yes. Exactly.
There's another question here, Rachel. Maybe you could answer this one. What's the infrastructure like in Spain? Is it easy to find all the equipment you need? Is it easy to transport the equipment around as well?
Yeah, so when I was in prep for shooting in Barcelona, I had very in-depth chats, because obviously sometimes you have different ways of doing things. But essentially, once I was able to explain our goal and what we wanted to achieve, the line producer was very able to just say, okay, this is how we do that, and this is how we will incorporate that into your shoot. And in terms of equipment and facilities and everything like that, we was able to have all of that in Spain, and we brought across some of our trucks with us and just literally drove them over the border.
Fantastic. Okay, good to know. And now we've got more questions coming through. Mike, it says, this is from Philip Luff. It says, Mike, I've read about some changes in terms of tax credits incentives for Mallorca. Can you explain about those? And also another question, is the incentive that's been introduced, obviously, sorry, it's been increased, is it on all spend, or does it include above the line and imported crew?
Hi, Philip. So to your first question, no, at the moment Mallorca doesn't, or Islas Baleares, the Balearic Islands, doesn't have a specific different tax rebate other than the same going across Spain nationally. So, 30% on the first million, 25% up to a cap of 10 million. And sorry, just remind me of the second part of the question there, Chris.
There's actually it's a question from Nicolas Corder, this one. Is the incentive on all spend, and does it include above the line and imported crew?
Yes, so the incentive relates to all EU crew. So for example, if you had for example, on Hannah season 1, there were Hungarian crew traveling to Spain. So in those instances, the Hungarian crew would qualify, or French crew, or German crew, depending on how long they spend in country. And then in terms of above the line, there's a creative cap of 100,000 for above the line creative personnel.
Okay, fantastic. And another question here from Elizabeth Binns is, how will the effects of COVID-19 impact on the filming industry in Spain? We've obviously touched on that a bit, but it goes into more specifics. It says, will shoots take longer? Will costs of CV-related H&S make it too expensive for producers to shoot there?
Should I continue, Chris?
Maybe if you start there, and then others can then address it as well.
Yeah, good question. Hi, Elizabeth. I think that, it's early days. I think that to begin with, probably things will take a little longer as people don, personal protective equipment and have temperature checks and, et cetera, and maybe some staggered call times. I think there's some sensible sequencing. You'd bring an art department to dress the set, and then electric would come in, then grip, and then camera. So you'd probably sequence rather than everyone kind of piling in at the same time, as used to be the norm. But I think that, I think producers and crews are adaptable and will have to adapt. And obviously with safety being the principal concern, I think people will overcome that. And I'd suggest that all of the measures that probably will take place in Spain, I don't think they will be slightly unique to Spain, but I think that as the world, the filmmaking world starts to open up, I suggest that probably that the protocols that a team follow in UK, Rachel, or in the States, or in France, or in Germany, will probably be very similar to the ones we follow in Spain. And so I think that there will be a level playing field in terms of the associated costs.
Rachel, do you want to come in there in terms of your own experience and how you see perhaps filming changing under COVID rules and restrictions?
Yeah, I think at the moment it's an ever-changing playing field, and as new guidance comes in, I think each big studio is discovering how they're going to attack this essentially, and I think as each restriction is brought in, whether it's in Spain or whether it's in France or whether it's in the UK, I think everyone will almost have a blanket way of attacking this and taking on each governmental guidelines as they go to each country.
Okay, fantastic. There's another question here from Patricia Lino saying, are the borders fully open for citizens such as Japan and South Korea and the US, or are there still visa requirements? Sorry, it's quite hard to read this one. If there are in place visas for these countries, are there issues with visas at the moment? Perhaps Christoph and Mike, do you want to address these? It says, I read the following on the official Spanish website. For reasons of public order or health, entrance will be denied to third country nationals unless they belong to certain categories which do not include work or shooting. Mike?
Yeah, I think that, as I mentioned, I think that with the United States, we're in discussions at the moment, at a kind of consular level, to understand what's happening at the moment. The United States, to Rachel's point, it's changing most days. Every day there's a new statement or a new advisory. But at the moment, I believe that visas that were issued before the crisis, before the lockdown, are still valid. I think that it's a challenge to get new visas at the moment, because I think the Spanish government is looking for, let's say, kind of levels of epidemia which are similar to Spain. Spain's very much decreasing rapidly, luckily, as is the rest of Europe. And so it's kind of a country per country discussion. But at the moment, relevant to Spain, with Schengen countries can come and go freely as they please. With I couldn't comment, I'm afraid, on South Korea or Japan.
No, okay. And there's another question here related to the incentive. In fact, this is for you, Christoph. Is the Canary Islands 50% incentive above and below the line as well? And does it apply to foreign producers, directors, cast who are not residents of Spain?
About the incentive, I don't know all the things. This is better to see in the website of the Canary Islands, the film commission. They have all the description.
The details there.
Yeah, the details are and everything, and they have all the coordinator on the film commission in the Canary Islands can explain and tell us exactly all the details and question about the incentive.
Okay. There's another question here then, and actually relates to the advertising world as opposed to just film and TV. So it'd be good, it says here well, it's actually from Anonymous, but it says, would be good to talk about how we see the not so distant future for advertising productions with budgets getting tighter and all the COVID measures and remote shooting slowing down the process. How do you see the industry changing in terms of the advertising side of things?
I could jump in on that if you like, Chris.
Okay. Yeah, feel free.
We work across advertising as well, so we tell visual stories, so we do TV, film, advertising, entertainment. So with our advertising workflows, we've just booked our first projects, actually, which is nice to see. So we have a print project shooting in Mallorca in July, what we call a motion, like a branded content project shooting also in Mallorca in July. And then we're hoping we should get a sign off this evening, kind of LA time, for a project coming from the States to shoot also in Mallorca in July. That would be a mix of direct to DP coming from a European country, so kind of, let's say kind of boots on the ground here with us, and then with stream using Q-Tape to the stakeholders back in Los Angeles, the production company and the client and the agency. So yeah, all possible. And I suspect that the days of, I don't know, 12 people coming transatlantic from client, agency, production company to supervise live a shoot in Malaga, Barcelona, Madrid, wherever it might be. I think those days are probably numbered.
Right.
But I suspect that people will still come. I think particularly directors will want to be in the environment. I think it's just a lot easier. I've spoken to a number of directors over the past weeks. I don't think any of them like remote shooting at all, because they want to be there and be able to have this conversation with the DP or the production designer or the cast, principally the talent. But I think that also from a sustainability perspective and environmental impact, I think that it doesn't make sense for so many people to fly in. So I think that kind of streaming is very much here to stay. Actually, we've been developing kind of remote streaming kind of capabilities over the past months, and I think it's going to be the new kind of du jour. We're going to see this on most of our shoots, advertising shoots. I think it's slightly more challenging for film and TV. But advertising, I think, for sure, it's here to stay.
And question for Tate here. Do you think the days of filming in lots of different locations on big budget TV series and films are over? Bearing in mind, obviously, the impact of COVID?
Not at all. I think we will keep on going as we did before. Maybe as Mike said, maybe at the beginning it's going to be a bit slower. We need to still to see how the procedures are going to be in terms of featuring, cast, feature, all the stuff. But I don't think as you said, the movies with lots of locations, they are over. Not at all. Actually, now I'm scouting all over Spain, and they want to shoot all over Spain. So I don't think that's going to happen. I hope so, but I don't think so.
Okay, fantastic. And a question for you, Rachel. Actually, this is a follow-up to what we were talking about before in terms of infrastructure and transportation. It's a question from Bertie Spiegelberg. They ask, what are the transportation logistics like in terms of getting equipment in and around the country, which we've touched on? And also, are there various camera, grip, electrical, etc. houses in multiple cities around the country? I.e., how quickly can you get equipment to a specific location?
Yeah, so we transported our camera equipment from the UK to Spain and used that through Panavision Spain. So we was able, because we was with Panavision, to be able to obtain equipment very quickly if anything was needed for the next day or the next week. And with terms to our lighting equipment, we got that entirely from Spain. And again, we had no problems at all with regards to anything like genie booms or it was very easy to transport. We just had everything in kind of smaller vans to be able to transport it around the streets of Barcelona just for a parking point of view. But yeah, no, we had no issues.
So there was no equipment not available in Spain. It was all there. You had it there to hand. There were no issues. You didn't have to go to other countries to bring equipment in necessarily.
No, we obtained everything that we needed.
Okay, fantastic. There's another question here. Actually, it's a very important topic in terms of insurance. This is from Laurie Apelian. What is the insurance situation like for film and TV in Spain at the moment? Christophe, do you have a view on this?
For the moment, I don't know about the insurance about the COVID and this. We have a proper insurance, and we have to talk about for the moment. I don't know exactly what's happened with this, but we are covered for most of the problem we can find during the production. But with the COVID, I don't know exactly. With this, I have to see with the companies and the insurance what's happened. But normally we have covered. I want to come back about the material in Spain.
Yeah, please do. Yeah, go ahead.
For example, I don't know in Spain, but in the Canary Islands, we can find now. We don't need to travel with the material. You can find everything now in the Canary Islands, and they have big companies with a lot of materials. Before, yes, 10 years before, there was the problem, but now we have absolutely all the material and the crew in the Canary Islands to do films and advertising or photo shooting. It's not necessary to come with the material. But sometimes the clients want to come with, but it's better to use always the company inside the islands. This for reduce the budget, and we can find everything now in the Canary Island. RE, Red One, and lights. What do you want? They have absolutely everything, and the crew, the crew also helping on.
That's very good to know. Okay, fantastic. And just going backward to the insurance question, Mike, is that something that you always address when you talk to international producers looking to shoot in Spain? Is that quite a key talking point?
Yeah, I mean, historically, we just put together, standard and kind of linked policies with our international clients. And so, not particularly different in Spain to other countries. And so that was, kind of easily structured. Relating to COVID-19, it's a bit of a head scratcher at the moment. COVID-19 is not insurable. One reads about how different countries are approaching this challenge because, of course, abandoning a significant production is vastly costly for, and who bears that risk? Should it be the production company or the broadcaster or the studio, or nobody wants to go near that, understandably, or the insurance companies themselves. And so I read with interest about how France, is putting together a kind of a government-backed, kind of, let's say, underwritten scheme. And I know that the UK is involved at a very kind of high level, government impact and et cetera, et cetera. The insurance company is also looking at the same kind of structure. I suspect that will have to be the case. I can't imagine an insurance company wanting to underwrite COVID-19 right now, and understandably, none of the individual stakeholders, be that the production company or the broadcaster, wants to take singular responsibility for that. So that's still very much a work in progress. I think. I don't think there's an easy answer to that today.
No, there isn't. No.
Because it has to be for things to resume.
Yeah, quite. And regarding the health protocols, which we discussed earlier on, there's a question here from Israel Gonzalez asking, who is actually regulating these protocols? Is it the government, the Film Commission, or is it auto-regulation between companies?
No. Government. So yeah, so it comes from the government. So we have to abide by government protocols, health and safety protocols, which is obviously sensible. We then, as a company, develop our own, as I'm sure Christophe and Tate and Rachel did
exactly
same in the UK. And then, as we did before, kind of forgetting COVID-19 for a moment, if we had a shoot, in Sevilla or in Palma, or we would always bring in a health and safety advisor and run through our approach to health and safety, and we'd have to have a sign-off. And so now that's slightly expanded into there's still the original health and safety, so somebody working at heights or with electricity or water or stunts, so all of that stuff remains. And then you have the addendum, which is COVID-19 related. And so we will then put the whole health and safety approach in front of our health and safety authority, who are obviously working with governments, feedback and guidelines, and they'll then make adjustments or recommendations, but ultimately they will sign off on our shoots.
Okay. Did anyone else want to come in on that one?
No, that's pretty much covered, I think.
Okay. There's another interesting question come through on a topic that's sort of not been discussed for a while, but is still equally as important as COVID, and that's unfortunately Brexit. So there's a question here from Steve Evans saying, what impact will that have on production in Spain going forward? Maybe to start with you, Mike, and then we'll move on to others.
Sorry, Chris, could you repeat the question, please?
Yeah, I was just saying, with Brexit, what effect will that have on production in Spain?
I don't like Brexit, just for the record. I mean, in terms selfishly, I think they'll create some challenges. We've yet to see what that means to freedom of movement. Will UK citizens require visas? It's still all a little up in the air. I believe at the moment it's been kind of largely the Brexit conversation's been kind of largely dulled in the media, hasn't it, by coronavirus? It's kind of starting up again right now. But I suspect that Spain and the UK will find a solution to that. So obviously the UK creative industries are vastly important and kind of huge generator of GDP, and a huge number of UK producers come to Spain. Spain is very much a popular destination for UK producers, and so I think that the argument will start at home in London, if you like. But at the moment, we haven't registered any specific change. So for us, until we're advised otherwise, it is business as usual.
Okay, fantastic. Anyone else want to discuss Brexit?
It's true. We don't ever feel nothing with since the Brexit. It's the same. The business continue with or without the Brexit, and Spain and England.
Do you think it would impact funding, though, perhaps?
I think not.
For projects, no?
No.
No, okay, good.
No, the English people are still interested to come to shoot in Spain, with or without Brexit.
Good, okay. There's another specific question related to Barcelona. It says, how deep is the crew base in Barcelona? How many projects can you crew up simultaneously? If there was a huge series shooting in Barcelona, would that mean that a smaller indie film may have difficulty crewing up and securing equipment? This is from Tom Edelman in LA. Rachel, do you want to perhaps touch on that based on the fact you filmed in Barcelona and what it's like there?
Yeah, so there is quite a big base of crew in Barcelona. We had quite a lot of crew that was local to Barcelona, and we, I think the majority of our crew came from Madrid and overnighted with us, and we had no issues with that, sourcing crew in and around Barcelona.
Fantastic.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. I think, Spain, there's various hubs in Spain, Madrid, obviously, Barcelona, Malaga, Almeria to an extent, Palma. One can never, at a budgeting stage, one can never kind of warrant how many huge shows might be in town at any given time. And so you tend to kind of err on the side of caution and allow for mostly travel and living for crew, just in case you need to migrate crew between the cities. And as you kind of near the production, you kind of get closer to the kickoff of principal photography. You obviously can adjust and kind of quantify that. But in terms of the country as a whole, it's got a pretty significantly deep skill base.
I have to ask, related to that, is there generally a good relationship between the regions? Like if you want to film a big project in lots of different parts of Spain, is there a good collaboration, or are there sort of cultural and political issues that sometimes get in the way of the process?
But the collaboration in between the region is fine, it's perfect. I mean, you can shoot in 3 different regions in Spain, and that won't be an issue at all. Because actually you are dealing with a specific government, and they don't mind if you go to another region to shoot another part of the film. That's something that is not an issue at all.
So it's quite a straightforward process. Okay, that's good to know.
Yeah.
The same in the Canary Island.
Yeah, go on, Christoph. Yeah.
It's very easy to shoot in the different islands. And most of the time we have organized films and shooting in the half in Tenerife and the other half in Lanzarote or in La Palma. We don't have problem to shoot, and they are very open, and also they help us to shoot everywhere, and they are quietly open. It's very easy to move the island to the island to the other, and it's not a problem.
Is there ever a problem with language barrier, perhaps sometimes, depending on where you're filming, like say in the Basque region or perhaps in parts of Catalonia as well, where perhaps the crew base don't all speak English, or is it predominantly English is spoken wherever you are?
No.
Mike, maybe?
I think, from an international service perspective, English is widely spoken. There's never a challenge. I've never been on a set where there's a challenge of communication. The crew in Spain are generally very kind of good at speaking English, much better than English are at speaking Spanish. Yeah, and to the point of people kind of moving between regions, I think each region is individually very welcoming. And actually, I think that the crew enjoy it. It's one of the joys of being a filmmaker, isn't it? Is traveling around and seeing different locales. Actually, a crew from Barcelona would be delighted to go and work in Malaga or Madrid or Galicia, and I think it's always of interest. But I think it's actually kind of more appealing than not.
Great, okay. And I was going to ask you actually before regarding the incentive. Is it quite a straightforward process? Obviously, the incentive's been around a while. I know it's been increased recently, but having accessed it, I imagine several times, is it a straightforward process? Does the money come back quickly? Is it a cash rebate or?
For me, Chris?
Yeah, go ahead, Mike. Sorry, yeah.
Sure. Yes, it's very straightforward. To your point, we're very used to structuring and supervising this, on behalf of our international clients. It's very straightforward. Sometimes it can take a little bit too long to come back, I have to confess. It slightly depends on how busy the local kind of regional kind of hacienda tax authority is, and how many kind of productions are piling in with their rebate requests. But no, it's very straightforward and flows back to the productions. I mean, generally what we tend to do is we set up a special purpose vehicle, limited company, Spanish domiciled, obviously, that is kind of responsible for that particular project. So the accounts are kind of locked within that, rather than muddied with lots of other different projects. And that's what we did, for example, with Rachel on Hannah. We set up a company, Chica Morena, of course, she had dark hair, to run all of the specific Hannah spend through. So yeah, it's very straightforward, and it's been in existence now for 5 years, and so we're well used to doing that.
Fantastic. And a final question for all of you: do you think, I know you touched on it before, Mike, but do you think Netflix's presence will be wholly positive, or could it edge out smaller independents over time in terms of taking over studio space? That's from Ben in London.
Yeah, it's a good question. Good question, Ben. Well, I think in terms of studio infrastructure, I think there's a huge demand, isn't there? In the UK, similarly to the UK has a number of kind of greenlit studio projects, being kind of let's say breaking ground either now or in the near future. And I think it's simply a supply-demand question. I think the greater the demand, then supply will inevitably catch up. And so I'm hopeful that more studio infrastructure will be built in Spain. And as it is, I think it will start to be filled, because as we've commented, Spain's increasingly an alluring, financially alluring, certainly with new incentive place to come and film. I mean, Netflix are often my boss, and so I need to speak a term, but we have very, very pleasant experiences with the Netflix team, and they come to us with great creative and kind of well-funded shows, and also they speak to us way in advance, and so we have a lot of time to set things up typically. But of course, for an indie filmmaker, I think that there will always be challenges trying to find the right pricing point for the crew and the infrastructure. And I think that's probably a perennial challenge that exists across all countries. And particularly as you have big players like, let's say Disney or Warner's or Netflix or HBO coming into town, and a crew member can go and work on a show for 4 months or 6 months and be paid a certain salary. It might perhaps be harder for a micro budget indie to kind of find the right kind of supplier structure. But I think that producers are wily folks and will typically find a way.
Yeah, it's interesting though, because I know from past experience that Netflix and the other streaming giants have taken over locations for long periods and obviously access the local crew and the equipment, etc. And that can sometimes cause problems for other productions. I don't know if that's the case necessarily in Spain, but obviously as Netflix's influence increases in the country, it'll be interesting to see how it does affect production generally, how the landscape will change perhaps. I don't know what your thoughts are in terms of the streaming impact, Tate.
You mean if Netflix, for example, is in a location for a long time? And that
yeah, exactly. I mean, like in the UK, for example, they've taken over the studios for a few years at a time and edged out some of the smaller productions sometimes. I'm just curious to know whether, obviously, Netflix's presence, I imagine, is a very positive thing in Spain, generally speaking, but perhaps as their influence in the country increases, it could affect the production landscape generally in the country.
I mean, talking about the studios, in Spain, we don't have studios. So I'm talking about exterior locations. I haven't had a bad experience, because if we have lots of filming coming at the same time, because lucky we have lot of different locations, and we can. I mean, it's very difficult that two different productions, they come at the same place by the same time. You know, it's very difficult. So it doesn't affect too much. Obviously, if there is an amount of productions coming, you know, but maybe it can be a problem. I didn't feel that yet.
And also, I think there's a very, very important point here relevant to the streamers, is that they are very supportive of foreign language, let's say, and obviously, you know, Spain isn't a foreign language, but you know, shows like Casa de Papel and The Leeds, etc.
Exactly, they've got quite a few productions, haven't they, local language ones?
Well, they find a global audience, don't they? And I think it very much boosts and enhances the local creativity. You look at, I don't know, Fauda from Israel, or Gomorra from Italy, and you know, I find myself, as I'm sure many of you folks do as well, watching foreign language fare much more often, almost every day, and it's fascinating to see. And I think that the streamers are being very supportive of foreign language and the originals, let's say, and that is kind of boosting, you know, the local hub. So Madrid, you know, Spain has a amazing heritage of writers, and they're probably much more likely to find employ today than perhaps they were, you know, 5 years ago.
Yeah, completely. Is that something you agree with, Rachel?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
From your own experiences, obviously having worked with the streaming giants, I mean, you've had a positive experience, haven't you, filming in Spain with them? So. Yeah,
absolutely. I think, as Christoph said, when we go to an international location, we're looking for that outside space, and you know, it's not, you don't find that in a studio as such. You know, you're looking for the grandeur of the country, essentially.
Fantastic. All right. Well, listen, that's been great. Thank you very much, guys. Really great to talk to you. Thank you so much for giving us your time today, and thank you to everyone at home for listening in today. It's been a really interesting chat. See you all very soon. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much too.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Bye bye.